I feel like such a Neanderthal when I'm with some of these. Like, you guys are probably laughing. Like,
No, no, I pushed at the beginning. You heard me push.
we had a diagram ready to go for
I did have.
any listeners out there in the history of the show. She has never once prepared I mean, she would have the freaking flip pad ready to go if I was in the studio.
Hey, it's Nicole. Welcome back to the show. So excited to have you. And I know I say that week in, week out, but this time it is all IU, Indiana University, on this episode. There's 3 of us, and then actually our editor, there's a 4th. Now, I should say right off the bat, there's Matt Swally on this call. So our Matt will now be referred to as Dooley for the remainder of this episode. This is Matt Swally. He's the co-founder and chief business officer at OmniKey, an AI marketing platform. And listen, this is like AI on steroids. Their platform generates and optimizes personalized ad creatives to increase sales across all digital touch points.
Hey, if you're an entrepreneur who usually fast forwards intros just like this one, this is the podcast for you.
Hey, just a reminder, our show is brought to you by Smart Cookie Media, where we believe data tells a story, and not just any story, your business story. As a subscriber to the show or as a client, you'll get insights on profitable, data-driven marketing strategies that work for you and your business, your industry. Not some cookie cutter trends, no. Ideas that are led by your customer data so you know they'll work for you. Connect with me on LinkedIn or Instagram to learn more. Everything's in the show notes. Now, let's get back to the show. Matt, welcome to the show. So excited to have an IU grad here in the house.
Thank you so much, Nicole and Matt. I'm so excited to be here, and I was so excited to see a couple of other Hoosiers on this call.
That's awesome. So Matt, tell us, how would you finish this sentence? You know you're an entrepreneur when?
When your passion and hard work can take you anywhere. It's the only place where the sky's the limit, and that one person you reach out to could change your life.
Oh my gosh, that one person, that relationship.
I think there's a story behind one relationship,
You
right?
stole my question right after that. What is that story?
Well, I've worked in a lot of different places. I started out in small business, spent 13 years at a large corporation, and I've been a startup the last 2.5 years. One of the best parts about startups is I used to do a lot of cold calling and everything, right? So you can reach out to anyone. Like, some of my best contacts were potentially long-term networking people we knew that you reconnect with. One of them being the former AT&T CEO of communications, who I reached out to and actually helped lead our round and has been a great advisor and mentor to myself and our company.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. So tell us, what do you do? What business do you own? What business have you co-founded? Tell us a bit about that.
Sure. So OmniKey is an artificial intelligence powered marketing platform that uses data and analytics to learn from why people are clicking, purchasing, submitting leads, and generates content with the attributes you can find from the current performance. And what the big change in data really enables now is you can use this tool called computer vision that looks at what performance data is. Meta, Google, TikTok, LinkedIn, they all have this data, and you can help quantify, like, what's the number of people, what are some of the keywords, what are the images, what are the colors, what are those length of video performing well. And then you can iterate off that. And these algorithms of these platforms are constantly changing. That's really what OmniKey does. Your attention span of customers is getting shorter and shorter. They're going to hundreds of different places a day. We help brands and agencies and technology partners follow their customers to all those places and communicate the story and move them through the sales process.
Wow. So I feel like that's a whole lot. Is it not just looking at that and being able to say, hey, here's what you do next, but also it's helping communicate the actual message, right? The actual words.
There's a lot you
Yeah.
can go into this. So
Yeah.
database content at scale, you can say, but there's 2 ways we look at it. One is data insights can fuel iterations. You could have 10 different ideal customer profiles. You talk a lot about ideal customer profiles in startups. And historically, there was, broadcast, the narrowcast, where you're communicating one message to lots of people. Well, now with AI, you can start to get much more granular on what's resonating with each audience and then do more personalized creative for those. That's the biggest buzzword. It's not one-to-one yet today, but you're getting much more granular on the different audiences, potentially geographies, localization, and then messaging that's across all the different places you could tell it.
Yeah. My goodness. And so what's the output? Is it delivering a message that your brands or your agencies need to then record? Is it delivering a message that actually looks like me saying it?
Well, there's a lot of different flavors of this as well. And I could talk on this for a while, but our current is focused on digital ads. So paid advertisements. So think finished digital ads that tell your story in something called multivariate testing, which is testing a whole lot of different messages for an audience, figuring out what's working and then iterating off that. Also, creative testing has a number of different ways. It has images, short form video, and long form video. Each one of those you can take a different approach for. Images is a little bit more standard. AI can plug into a lot of different areas of that with ideation, generating images, generating copy based on data. And then video is a whole different element. One is you can use brand assets, production videos, be real like you have here. You have a bunch of production and you can piece it into a bunch of different supercuts. The second is AI avatars. And people think this isn't as real today, but it's getting better every day and it moves really, really fast. Like you could train an AI on yourself, Nicole or Matt, and you could be feeding it scripts and producing content within minutes now that hits a bunch of different markets, like localized, talking about Chicago or whatever markets you want to focus on.
Yeah.
I feel like I am in the back of the room and I'm not knowing what the heck's actually going on right now. I'll be honest with you. I'm just an attorney and you two are having this great conversation. I'm like, so what does it do again? Like, is it giving me, so it's helping me figure out this content from an AI perspective. And does it give me, as she said, the output? Is it giving me the actual messaging to the actual ad,
Our platform does final ads. So just imagine when you're scrolling on social media, any of them, X, Meta, LinkedIn, you see those finished ads. That's our final output.
Okay.
There's lots of different inputs that can generate that output, but the main thing is the outcome is what you're seeing on your phone, your computer, your TV, those final digital ads.
Okay, so Dooley, I drew something in anticipation of your famous line, and you didn't actually say it. You always say it as the non-marketer in the room, like whenever I get to geek out with a marketer. So I drew something that might help lead this conversation just a little bit.
All right.
So, Swally, we're going to have to do this a little bit. So my agency, certainly we believe in testing messages and we believe in looking at the data. I mean, I'm talking micro data at 400 impressions. I can predict whether or not somebody's ads are actually going to be long-term because I believe fewer ads leads to greater sustainability. However, you have to get to those very few ads. Dooley, still with me?
Yep. I'm still with you. Yep.
Okay, good. So we'll do like in one round of testing, we'll do 24 ads. So here's each one of our just one line messages, one line headline testing. I feel like Dooley, you might be learning something about what we do over here too, a little bit of insight. In the past, part of the people I've learned from, although there's not many out there that are actually following data, and now you're doing it on steroids, part of them would say, and then go make the Chicago message and go make the Philadelphia message and go make the San Fran message, right? And it really would just be me, the same exact message, just at the beginning, clipping in, being like, hey, Chicago, hey, Northwest Indiana, hey, whatever, right? And so that's why we were trying to get more granular. And so if we were ads for NFL or we were ads for Dorito chips or we were ads for Smart Cookie Media, we could get more granular that way. But usually some of my clients, there are a lot of service providers or manufacturing companies, and we can get pretty close on who we need to talk to and find the winning 3 messages, let's say, based on those headlines or those hooks. And then those headlines or hooks, we just learned from Facebook, like 2.96 billion active users. We can go take that out of our little chemistry lab, if you will, and we can go paint it wherever their marketing is. So if it's sales pages, their headlines all the way down, it's pulling someone down the page. Billboards, I put them up on billboards, wherever we need to put it, even if somebody wants still a trifold brochure. It would win hearts and open wallets is what I would say. So are you with me, Dooley?
I'm with you so far. Yes.
Okay. So this wouldn't be our finished ad. These would be pretty ugly ads, actually. I always say this is the ugliest thing I put out, but then we would create that final product. But do you hear all that? Like that's a whole lot of manual stuff.
Yes.
Swally's saying if you take it to the next level.
So there's 2 major things too. Nicole was mentioning one way of creative testing. The other one, there is like these platforms have algorithms just automatically optimized. So it recognizes what's in something and it knows, Matt, what you like. So it's going to show you a bunch of similar products. So there's both kind of different ways, but there's 5 dynamic elements to like a meta ad. There's a image, there's a headline text, a primary text. So when you look at an ad, you can break it into 5 pieces, a call to action or an image and video. All those can be tweaked or dynamically tested. Like Nicole mentioned, you figure out what's getting clicked on the most, or you're seeing like the purchases or leads filled out. And you want to expand your budget into those types of creatives, but it takes a lot of testing. How long, Nicole, would you say a shelf life of an ad is? It's not unlimited.
So with my testing, I mean, I have one client that's still running probably a 3-year ad and she's still booking. And that's only one out of, I can think of 50, but a lot of them I can get 12 to 18 months and that's unheard of. Like that's really like actually eating into my pocket. Like yesteryear, we would just guess and we would just keep getting paid. But now it's like, no, I can solve that for you and you don't have to keep paying.
The other way AI really helps too is one is we were talking about how the different locations like Chicago. So like it would craft something with Chicago in it, and then it could potentially put a picture of buildings in Chicago automatically without having to go take a picture. It looks photorealistic. So there's a lot that really streamlines the process. It's only getting better. We're at the very early stages right now.
So let me get this straight then, Matt. You're saying that your platform, the software, does all that manual labor and all that testing that Nicole was saying. It takes 24 ads, has to go through all that, figure out, tweak it. It does that all for you? Is what you're saying?
We're piecing together all the parts of the workflow, empowering AI with some of our own proprietary large language models for ad creation, and then some open source ones for different elements of it. It's all about inputs. Who's your audience? What's your end goal? Is it sales or brand awareness? Creates a bunch of ideas. It automatically plugs it in. Then you just start testing and learning. Images are mostly automated. Then video it's a work in progress for everyone right now. There's a lot of tools that can add motion, that can do a lot of things. But whenever you see finished AI ads, it's someone using like 10 different tools. It's not usually just one tool.
I got it now. The only thing I have to say now is I was never worried about, the rise of the bots and the mark of the beast and all this stuff. But the minute we start taking away our sales jobs, folks, you're taking away Nicole's marketing jobs. I'm starting to go, wait a second here now. This is getting serious, folks. It's getting serious here.
I don't think so. So I sat with a sales advisor yesterday. He works as a fractional VP of sales for several different brands. And he was like, so I met with somebody. I don't think they're really ready for my plan, for what I will do with them and how I'll take the messages and craft them. And I was like, okay, what are they ready for? And he's like, I think they need marketing and branding help. I think they need awareness. And I was like, and what if you knew the messages that you could take to market? So instead, it's more like a delay. It's really every salesperson should be like, can I have my testing team with me before I go to market and bang my head up against the wall?
Yes.
Okay.
So you can test the value prop with advertising, exactly what Nicole's saying, much quicker, learn if it's resonating with the audience, drive people in. And then you can formulate your strategy off of what you're seeing is working, the other marketing materials. That's exactly what we've done, actually. So our main lead gen has been digital ads. In the old days, I picked up the phone and made 25,000 cold calls in my day. That was my whole first 8 years of my life, was every day, cold call, door knocking. The model is kind of flipped now. We can bring people to us. We're still sales led. So we hold live demos a lot of times, discovery calls. We learn from the customer that way. Then we do an outbound motion after we figure out what's resonating, but you can have a smaller team, less outbound. You focus more on how do I move the sales through the process? How do I refine my demo? How do I get better at discovery? How do I simplify the final sale? That's kind of how we've approached it in our early stages. And then as we moved up market, it becomes more complex with some of this.
Yeah, it sounds like less burnout, happier sales teams, better morale. I mean, yes, there may be fewer, but sometimes there needs to be fewer.
So it's essentially refining the quality prospects and whatnot to get to a cleaner, clearer, I should say, pool, as opposed to the good old days, as you said, Matt, of just calling 25,000 people a day, hoping you're going to eventually get some sort of answer, picture out of something to guide you on just even that next step.
Yeah, people don't like picking up the phone as much as they used to. It's become more invasive. It's a good follow-up technique. You can still take shots with it. Emails are going to spam more often. Digital and better personalization is really them picking, they want to come talk to you. And it's a needle in a haystack almost. You're reaching tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands with a budget, figuring out what's working. And then you're learning from the customer. One of the other great motions we've had is we talked with over 2,000 different companies last year. When generative AI got hot after DALL-E 2 and ChatGPT hit, we had lots of people coming to talk to us about their marketing challenges. So we've heard the same problem hundreds of times about scaling content, copying things. It takes 5 to 7 people sometimes to go through the full creative process for a larger company, from strategy to copywriting to design to distribution, and approval is a big problem too. And you can empower the team to work on more strategic things than performance ads. They can work on the production stuff instead of minor tweaks on performance ads.
Okay. I get it now.
You get it now.
I'm good.
I will say it's crucial though, no matter what your thoughts are on AI, to start testing it and learning, because the people that do not test it, it's going to be really challenging to move as fast as people that start really getting the hang of it.
Fair.
Mm-hmm.
It's coming from an AI company though.
Yeah, of course. That's a little biased, I believe. That's when the lawyer says, trust me, right? Come on.
Man.
Oh,
now legal can be a little more complex with AI. There's been some challenges in that industry.
Oh, I bet.
We can have a whole nother show about that call. I'm just telling you.
Can't you just throw in the words allegedly and malpractice and here to, therefore? No. Okay. Hey there, busy movers and shakers. I get it. You're out there conquering the business world, hustling day in, day out. Well, guess what? We've got something to amplify your efforts, something that's about to make your entrepreneurial journey even more exciting. Introducing our podcast production services, your ticket to sharing your knowledge and stories without breaking a sweat. We know your time is gold. That's why our team of podcast pros will take the reins, handle all of the behind the scenes stuff. From brainstorming fun topics, introducing you to incredible guests, polishing up those episodes, repurposing your content so you can share among lots of platforms. We're here to turn your ideas into a podcast that's as easygoing as your favorite chat over coffee. Imagine establishing your expertise and your authority, making connections all across the globe in just minutes a month. And the fun doesn't end there. Our data-savvy approach gives you insights that will help you fine-tune your content and connect with your audience even better than before. So join forces with a crew that's as enthusiastic about your podcast as you are about your business, the Smart Cookie Media crew. Let your voice resonate, your stories inspire, and your ideas spread like wildfire. Level up your personal brand through the magic of podcasting, whether you choose audio only or video too. Are you ready to dive into podcasting? Your journey to share your knowledge starts right here because it's your voice, your podcast with our expertise. Smart Cookie Media, turning your stories into conversations. So we got to know a little bit more about you. What led you to entrepreneurship?
I always loved entrepreneurship. I just never took the leap. So like my very first job was out of Northwest Indiana. It was Zyker Uniform. It was a small business, family owned and operated, multiple generations. I got a good lens of how like entrepreneurship is just by working close with the CEO then and the founder. I did that for a couple of years. Then I made the big leap into AT&T, where it's not entrepreneurship, but you get to do a lot of different things over a period of like 13 years. Like I moved 7 times from Atlanta to SoCal, all over the beach, down to like Dallas headquarters, led sales teams, moved into corporate strategy. You do learn a lot. Like you have to learn new jobs really quickly. And some of those skills go to entrepreneurship, but I really had it in my heart. When I was little, I started a lawn care business. I did a lot of like things like that. It was the best decision ever because it's the only place where your input can drive potentially amazing output. Like the sky is the limit. Everything you put into it, you can potentially do something that changes the world.
Yeah. I always say, I believe if kids can see it, they can be it. Stay tuned for a book one day after I've studied you all for a while. So tell me, there was a lawn care business when you were a kid. Was there anybody growing up that you saw entrepreneurship close up?
I started a couple of little things when I was younger. What brought me to AT&T was my uncle was like the CMO for a while at AT&T. He has a lot of those qualities as well. But that's what brought me into like thinking how big the world is. I was just like, wow, he's done all these amazing things. Like, I'm going to take this jump. And then I'm going to take this next jump and then this next jump. This was the biggest jump from going from a large company to a really small company. And then 2.5 years later, going through multiple stages from early seed stage to raising some capital and then seeing all the changes in building a product and going to market.
Nicole's the living testament to this. And that is she's great at hiring entrepreneurs as employees in our own company. And, we always talk about in the corporate world how so many of the companies, both Nicole and I worked for, I think they missed out sometimes because they didn't know how to harness the power comes with having somebody who has those entrepreneurial tendencies and the ability to think on their feet and make those quick changes and do things that are maybe outside the box, but can get the job done. It sounds like you found those spots to flourish within AT&T, for instance, and seeing your uncle there. I look back to even when I was younger, every job I had, I always wanted to do it my way, though. I always wanted to do it a little bit different, right? And unfortunately, I think some of us maybe get into a great company like your career at AT&T where you were able to flourish and change and do some things. And some of us, like Nicole says, ends up working for, what do you call them always? The Disney villains, if you will.
Oh,
right?
yes.
Exactly.
Yes. And their henchmen.
And they're henchmen. And they don't necessarily welcome us folks with open arms, we'll say.
So Hikari Senju, he's the CEO and founder of OmniKey. He's a Harvard computer science grad. This is his 3rd startup. He's been on it since 2018. So he thought of the idea, first customers in 2020. He was leading engineering, sales, everything when I joined. But once you start to work around people like that, it's just crazy to see the drive. And it's really that serial entrepreneurship, exactly what the title of this podcast is. And when you get around a bunch of those people, it's enlightening. Like I hadn't experienced that. It's kind of addicting to see. They give everything they've got, like I am right now, but it's just been so fun seeing that side of it as well.
That's awesome. I love it. Okay. So because you work with businesses, sounds like larger brands, but you do work with agencies as well. So maybe some smaller sizes there. I wanted to ask you, what are you seeing out of those serial entrepreneurs? What are you seeing out of founders? People who can repeatedly take new ideas and turn them into successful strategies that aren't getting distracted by this or that, or sometimes they are distracted, but it leads to their next best thing. Do you have an example of some successes you've been seeing, whether it's your co-founder with you or somebody else out there that you're seeing right now?
Well, we've seen a lot of it. It's all leads to focus. Everyone tells you that when you join a startup. you have limited resources. So like the most successful companies all become really focused on one little business problem and learn how to really help a customer and really wow them and then be able to scale the company from that thing. It's hard to be focused in the early days of a startup. You potentially have customers coming from everywhere. And you can't build your product for all those different customers. Like we started out selling to startups at the very beginning. They're fun to deal with, but a lot of times they can be a little bit more churny and everything from a marketing perspective. And eventually you just learn like a lot of them don't have product market fit. And you have to continually building your product for where we are today, which is more of enterprise mid-market agencies. But it's complete focus in putting blinders on for anyone that's outside those guardrails. For example, part of our thing is we started turning off our leads or routing them to somewhere different if they're not in our customer profiles. Because we were meeting with every single person. Imagine like for a year, I was taking 8 to 10 demos a day, meeting with all these different people. And you eventually figure out this isn't going to work. Put the guardrails up. We'll come back to that later at some point, possibly.
Yeah.
A lot of founders that you come into this world, they're like, you should be embarrassed by your first version of a product because you want to get it out there to test it. You want to see how people resonate. The best part also about startups versus large companies, we would work days and days and days on a deck, right? 50 different versions before it went somewhere. At startups, you get it to a really good level, but then you're just like, ship it.
Yeah. Yes.
Move much faster.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite phrases after working around several engineers is you can't build for an outlier. Even if an engineer could totally do all the things, you can't build for like those one or two or those few. You've got to first build for who your core is. So I love that. Tell me, Matt, what do you want to cover and make sure that every decision maker, business, agency owner, mid-level, enterprise level, what do you want to make sure that they know about AI and marketing and sales right now?
So we're at the early stages and it's important to understand how you can plug it into your workflow. We keep talking about greater personalization. Just start thinking about all the unique events that happen, like something in the news could positively impact your business. Imagine how AI can help you move much, much faster to go tell that message to your customers to bring them in for a lead or a sale, whatever. And that's really what we see in the future. You saw Elon actually release part of his Neuralink, and it's showing really positive signs of reading brains and like typing on your computer with your brain. So it's going to continually understand more like Minority Report, where things are really going to become more and more personalized. There'll be a lot of back and forth between personal information and everything, but really just start inspecting your business and how every year is just start thinking, the way I did things last year, is it still working? Do I need to evolve?
I always try to tell everybody, like, you weren't going to not use email, even if you were like, no, I don't need it. Or you weren't going to not use a smartphone, even though at the beginning people were like, nah, no one needs to reach me wherever. But like, this is one of those things that resisting the next thing, it just feels like maybe we should learn to try to early adopt this round. No, I'm an entrepreneur. So of course I'm like, okay, I'm going to adopt whatever piece I can. But I think that this is one of those things that everybody wants to like dance around a little bit. And by everyone, I mean, those that are skeptical, they want to dance around for a little while as long as they can. But I feel like that's the wrong move.
Maybe it's because I've seen some very poor execution, specifically in some of the more technical stuff I'm involved with. Like even in the real estate stuff, like I've seen real estate agents write a marketing description, for instance, for property. And I'm like reading it. I know right off the bat if the agent wrote it or if the bot wrote it. I know it. I know exactly when I read AI descriptions anymore for real estate.
Because the agent writes it better or because the bot does?
No, bot uses verbiage and specific types of words to describe certain things that, in my experience, at least in the Midwest, agent is not going to use that language with respect to.
The agent would just say this charming bungalow instead.
Yes, cozy, charming bungalow. Exactly. Exactly. So something as simple as a real estate marketing description. Now, don't even get me on law. There's actually a lot of potential, litigation that's going to ensue at some point in time because of the dangers of, the license to give, quote, legal advice or even medical advice. My God. And so, when you're not talking about people's lives, maybe, or people's, abilities, exactly to not maybe spend the rest of life in jail, perhaps, or something, who knows? I'm just thinking of like where this could go eventually. It's probably not as big of a deal because we're just talking about money. But I think when you start talking about some of these other concepts, and I look to see when someone says, hey, have you looked at this legal AI bot that does this? I read what it puts out and I'm just like, my gosh. And I know it's going to get there eventually. I hear what you guys are saying. Don't resist it because it's going to get there eventually. So you might as well start to learn how to.
Or at least just introduce to other places, like on the show, like on the podcast, right? So we use, I don't know if this is fair to Swally to mention, but we use Swell.ai or we use Munch. So Get Munch app.
Right.
.com or whatever it is, they'll clip it. Like they'll clip on whatever's been most interesting and they also know is trending out in the rest of the world so that we don't have to like, okay, if you guys mentioned Taylor Swift today, like we're going to clip it. But Munch is going to do that for us as well. Right? Like if you mention the Super Bowl and Taylor Swift, like that's going to get clipped. That'll be funny if it does. But my point is like, that's just nice and easy that we just upload this one link. Whereas before we would go through and like, okay, this was interesting. Okay, this was funny. Okay, this resonates. Where now it can happen literally within 60 seconds. There's like 30 clips. And then it can also write show notes. It can write description. And are there some of them that are wonky? Yeah. And then we clean that up. But now, Matt, I want to challenge you. You're going to have to go back and see which ones I've written, which ones Crystal's written, and which one a bot has written. You can just go slow. You can just go small.
I got a couple of
Although
I can add to this.
Please do so. But I will say to you, Matt, before you start, for the record, now you're making me question whether or not there's things I think that are funny. And I'm a funny guy, all right? I don't know if this bot is going to agree with me. That's what I'm scared about because I know I'm funny. People like me.
Yeah, so we do. So we, doggone it. So we do like extend it. Like if you asked a funny question or you set up something, I mean, you're here for the humor, man. Like, and we also make jokes as lawyers. So we do extend it if it didn't like quite get the entire essence. Don't you worry.
But go ahead, Matt. Yes, please, by all means, expound upon it.
The first point on this is, so Matt Dooley, it's going to be able to learn from you. So you're going to be able to just plug in your name. It's going to scan all your podcast content in the near future. It's going to learn how you interact, your jokes. It's going to start to write like you.
Oh, man.
The second point is we look at it as 10, 80, 10. So 10% human input on the front. What are your goals? Like who's the audience? What's the product, service, et cetera? AI can do the middle 80%. The last 10% is human review, edit, approve. So you still need to go in there and review. This is accurate. You know, who knows?
Is it legal?
Is it legal? Exactly. That's one of the things like the brand LLM that we have. It can learn on the logos, the fonts, the colors of a brand. It can learn that on you as well.
Yeah. Amazing. When I need a new smart cookie product name, like if we're putting out a new guide or something, oh yeah, I'm taking it over there. And yeah, they'll spit out a whole bunch of funny stuff that's like cookie and digestible and just silly stuff. It's so much easier.
We're so early too. That's the best part. That's why it's going to be crazy.
Because you are in startup, here's a question for the AI folks out there. Since one of you brought up the Minority Report, I just want to know when computers are going to actually solve true crime because they can scan somebody's brain post-mortem. I know this is awfully morbid and the show just took a left turn, but I say that because Dooley's worried about job security, but I'm worried about my true crime. Like I still need some true crime, but if we just like solve them all really quick with AI.
That's such a great question. And I don't know if the capability could be there within a couple of years.
I mean,
they're reading brains right now, but then it will be, will they be able to use it? Is it invasion of privacy? I don't know. Like,
I hope not. I hope that we can like just see the last few frames in somebody's brain before, you know, so that their loved ones get justice.
I'm going to say this right now. What it's going to end up happening is, Nicole, you're going to have to go back and just watch or listen to all the old shows. Kind of like what happens when we watch Home Alone, folks, right? Everyone knows Home Alone would never happen the same way today.
So true.
As it did.
I've seen that.
TikTok. I mean, come on. Yeah, exactly. We all know that. Like,
I saw that. Yeah.
There's no way in the world. I mean, we have cell phones, everything else. Home Alone could not have happened in today's world. Yeah,
but you know how much safer it would be? Like, it would be so safe. If AI has figured out how to put criminals away, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So tell me, what is one of the key lessons you've learned now as an entrepreneur? Maybe it's a mantra or something you find yourself saying again and again.
Just keep going. 90% of the time is going to be challenging and let yourself feel rewarded in the 10% when things are going great.
I love it. I also think that maybe your kids watch Nemo. So just keep swimming. That's what I heard as soon as you said it. Just keep swimming.
Exactly.
Just keep swimming.
Matt, how would you define your entrepreneurial success?
I am giving it everything I have. And there's still a long ways to go, but I try to chip away at adding little skills that help us get to our goals. If anyone's interested in OmniKey, you can go to www.omniky.com, OMNEKY.com, and you can schedule a demo and put in the note that you heard about on the Serial Entrepreneur. You can also reach out to me at matt@omniky.com or Matt Swally on LinkedIn.
Thanks for being here. We're so excited. Julie's going to have to go and check out the site a little bit more.
I feel like such a Neanderthal when I'm on when some of these, like, I swear to you, like, you guys are probably laughing, like, it doesn't get the check.
No. I pushed at the beginning. You heard me push to make sure I understood what is the thing we're getting. I tried.
You had a diagram ready to go for me.
I did have ready to go.
I'm sorry.
But I also recorded
in the history of the show, folks, any listeners out there, in the history of the show, she has never once prepared I mean, she would have the freaking flip pad ready to go if I was in the studio.
If it would stick to the wall, I would have. I really would. Well, to be fair, I did record a TikTok using this because I was at a meeting with a sales advisor recently, and I wanted to share with him a little bit about his strategy and how he needs some data behind it. Like, let's get rid of guessing.
Hey, it's Nicole, and that's the end of the interview. But stick around. This is the part where Matt and I break it all down and give you our favorite takeaways. Listen in.
Okay, we just wrapped up. What do you
Yes.
got? What's your takeaway?
My takeaway at first was I didn't know what the heck it was. I gotta be honest, like I was so confused. But as it evolved, I really understood, okay, I see the benefit. And it gave me a peace of mind. It's not designed to replace us as human beings. It's that 10-80-10 rule, like you said. I like that. It's really resonating with me. My takeaway is you got to be able to know what you're putting into it to begin with. There has to be a human element behind it in that first 10%. Let technology, let their platform, let what they do really, really well run the 80% in the middle, and then come back at the end and be the human element that closes the sale, tweaks the language or whatever. That's
that
all.
post the podcast with the
Yes.
cooler description now. Yeah. So a couple of my takeaways were, hey, IU in the house doing some things around startups. He's not local to us right now, but it was really cool to see that. Another thing is 65% of us are visual learners, and my drawing, I like to think, helped today.
Yes. Good job, Nicole. Good job.
I'm no Bob Ross or anything, but
Yeah, exactly.
I like to think it helped. Now, friends, if you got this far in the show, we only know if that was helpful. My drawing, for example, or this bit is if you tell us. We live for those reviews, the feedback, the engagement, anything you share with us. By the time of this recording, we will be past 100 episodes, and it's because of listeners like you that give us feedback all the time.
Thank you.
That matters. Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate you. And like we always say, if you're listening,
Keep listening.
you've been listening to the Serial Entrepreneur Show, produced by the team here at Smart Cookie Media.